Welcome to another episode of Problem Busters with myself, Jonathan, and my honourable co-host, Ollie. How are you?
I like being honourable. I'm very good, sir. The weather is warming, and perhaps we need a bit more rain. But otherwise, I'm enjoying this whole spring and being able to go outside and occasionally see other people in a way that's not across the street.
Yeah, I think it's I've got a problem to bust, which is my garden. It needs a good mow. So I wonder if I'll tackle that this weekend. But yeah, the weather is really, really warming up, which is quite funny because I have a friend in the south of France who said it was been a bit rainy there. So, you know, it's interesting times. But we did have Eddie on talking about global warming previously. So who knows?
It's a thing.
Knows? It is. So we are joined by a guest today.
We are indeed. So we have with us today Daryl Woodhouse. Daryl is a speaker, coach, and a founder who helps leaders and their teams grow performance and maximize life-work balance. And I hesitate on that ever so slightly because we usually say it work-life balance. And there's a good reason it's that way around, which we will get into in a moment. And that is largely around his recent program, The Life Work Effect, which has just hit the market and going gangbusters to help people achieve balance. So Daryl, thank you for making time to join us.
Thank you for having me, guys. Great to be here.
It's a pleasure. So we always start off with a little bit about you and about your journey to get to today. So your time starts now, my friend.
Thank you very much. And again, thanks for having me today. A bit on my background, try and keep it as a short version. There's two halves of my career to date, 19 years working so far. First half was in the corporate leadership world and worked my way up to a national role for a FTSE Top 10, which I started just turned 26, I think it was when I started that role. And I was very lucky to be on a global executive training program from a younger age that sort of set me on the way for where I am today, really, and gave me lots of important skills for presentations and networking and leadership, strategy, change management, building businesses, and all of this kind of great stuff. And in 2012, I, after a lot of thinking and procrastination, I walked away from that corporate world to start my first business and join the entrepreneur community. And it's been an interesting few years. I set up quite well for that with some of the business and leadership experience I had, but there was lots of stuff I didn't know and lots of stuff that wasn't in textbooks and you certainly didn't learn at school in terms of why and how so many businesses fail and how to beat the odds and how to make a startup to scale up journey a little bit smoother. But despite that, with a lot of hard work, we did achieve some great success with my first business, Advantage Business Partnerships, which scaled up to 7 figures revenue in the first couple of years and built a really great team and infrastructure, serving companies from all over the world, helping them with entrepreneur mentoring, non-executive director advisory services, leadership development programs, team building workshops, and a load of other great stuff really to help give businesses and teams the skills, the knowledge and the tools to maximize their potential and be successful. And then in around 2015, I was coming away from that business a little bit because I was happy with the size that it got to and some of the achievements we had. And I guess having that entrepreneurial thirst for variety, I wanted to get involved in some other businesses. So since then, I've invested in several technology companies, a couple of successful exits. I became one of the youngest business lecturers in the world for a London business school. I started doing more keynote speaking, which is a great way that I can reach more people and share my experiences, some of the ups and downs of my corporate and then startup to scale up experience. And amongst all of that, in 2016, I had a major burnout, which is obviously one of the problems we're going to talk about today. And the burnout was a combination of a couple of things that aren't uncommon for others that go through this. Part of it was a long time coming from being a workaholic and putting work before life for too often, for too long, and not having a careful balance of well-being, time with my family, my friends. It was literally just work, really excessive hours. And an overachiever, perfectionist mentality. But it was a personal tragedy in my private life in that year, 2016, that brought everything out and made everything too much. And there's a message there that even people who are seen to be successful and strong and resilient and hardworking, they can be vulnerable to burnout and mental health challenges. And if mental health and burnout isn't addressed soon enough, it can leave you with permanent health problems that you have to manage daily for the rest of your life. And I have several of those. It can also destroy families. It can destroy marriages. It can destroy businesses. And so I've experienced some of this stuff the hard way. And from coming back from that to a point of having a 4-day week and becoming much happier in life than ever before, and seeing actually my career successes and my client case studies getting even bigger and better, the writing was on the wall that less is sometimes more. And I started going deeper into the world of productivity and life-work balance and well-being, and learnt that there's a better way to the old traditional rat race that both corporates and typically entrepreneurs kind of almost embrace too easily. And life's too short, and as I say, there's quite a few things you want to avoid with burnout. And so I decided about 2 years ago that I had to do more with what I'd been through to make it more public and take it to the stage and take it into my programs, as a duty to raise awareness of burnout and overworking, and to show people a way that you can have a really great life-work balance while still succeeding and progressing in your career, or scaling and building up your business and still having the income, but also that lifestyle that you really want. But it comes with planning life first, and a bit of a hint there on stuff we'll talk about later as to why it should be life-work balance and not work-life balance, which is what we've been conditioned to believe for decades.
Yeah. It's quite interesting. You touched on quite a few points. I just wanted to ask, before we actually get into the the detail of the problem that you're busting, in regard to the entrepreneurship, was there any sort of big realizations you had with the lifestyle of high achieving entrepreneurs that were not too healthy and that sort of would contribute to burnout?
Absolutely. It's a great question, Jonathan. Absolutely. There were quite obvious kind of something like behavioral traits, which I had, and I kind of indulged in them. I just went with them rather than sort of being more aware and sort of stepping back and thinking, hang on a minute, that's not healthy. This kind of stuff. If my life ended tomorrow, I've not really lived it as much as I could have done, for example. That's another good way of looking at things. And it's things like, and these are things that, as I say, they were evident in myself. And since I've studied the topic and learned more about it, I've seen that, this is typical in other business leaders and entrepreneurs as well, that are overworkers, overachievers. So it's things like working long hours, obviously. It's things like always being too busy, always being rushed. Typically, for instance, being regularly late for meetings, even if it's just a few minutes. That's such a big indicator that someone's got a bit too much on their plate and they might need a helping hand with life-work balance and slowing things down. Yeah. But you see, if you're an overachiever or perfectionist, that kind of it makes it much harder to fight that, because it's like a natural habit to overwork and to pack too much in the diary and to not say no often enough when people make other demands on our time, our resources. So there's a big thing about being aware of being too reactive to, as I call them, time gremlins, and that are very, very happy and hungry to take our time, and to be more proactive with how we spend our time and what life-work boundaries we set, making sure we do the important stuff like the gym or the running, and do that first thing in the day. Don't plan to do it at the end of the day when you're quite knackered and you might just want to put your feet up. Because, surprise, surprise, what happens if you have a busy day? Even if you planned that session in the gym for the end of the day, you're not going to do it. So do it in the start of the day, and there's so many health and energy benefits of getting that done, and the feel good, the endorphins, and that fuels your headspace, your innovative thinking, your problem busting thinking. It feeds your efficiencies and energy to get more done in the day and to get it done quicker and to a higher standard. So a few little things there. People who skip lunches or eat lunch on the run, it's like a quick sandwich while they're literally running between meetings, or I don't know, literally they've got 5 minutes between back-to-back meetings and they're eating it really quickly so that they can be on and be there and be present for that next meeting. So it's things like that, really. They won't have as much of a social life. They won't be making time for friends. Their work, their business, they kind of, to an extent, they love it and they see it as a hobby. But it can be a very unhealthy hobby if you don't have some careful boundaries. And that's kind of one of the messages I want to reinforce with others.
That's a really good point. And I feel like you're describing my week too often.
Well, the good news is there's lots of things we can do about that, Oliver.
Yeah, I've gotten better at the whole lunch aspect. And I don't know if it's coming across now. I think I've spoken about food so often on the podcast.
Brilliant.
But yeah, I think that the whole lunch piece was, I've actually trained myself to enjoy my lunches and enjoy those brief periods of break. And I think tech also helps because I have a Garmin watch. I think Garmin and technology has helped me because it shows me how stressed I am during the day and my sort of rest periods as well, which is quite interesting.
It's super interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. So that really also helped, as a trigger to say, oh, okay, I need to actually have these times of these down periods during my day rather than always working at peak. So I can really relate to that, Daryl. Yeah, really close to home.
Well, just picking up on that point, I think being close to home has also helped me a lot because it was quite easy, I think, being in a work environment, working with engineers and everything feeling like it needs to happen now and that there's all these mouths that need to be fed with work that's ready to go. And if they get blocked, they need to be unblocked, for a sprint to get through to the conclusion it should have. All of those words that I've used to describe it suggest urgency and speed, right? And they don't easily feel parked at 12 o'clock when you want to go and have your lunch break. But being at home has been quite interesting because I've now moved to the stage of saying, folks, let's not book meetings between 12 and 2 because people in different time zones are having lunch around that time. And let's actually step away from our desks for it. So in my case, that means going down the ladder out of the attic and actually making some lunch and having it with my fiancée. And it is so much better. It makes the day feel like 2 small days rather than 1 long day, right?
Definitely. And we're now blessed with there's quite a few sort of productivity, life-work balance studies that have come out in the last few years. So we're now sort of blessed with an increasing amount of data and research that proves that in terms of overworking, less is more. And it just shows how a range of benefits come from having that more balance, more energy, being more happier. And there's even a study from Oxford University that showed that from various efforts and initiatives and surveys, people who are happier at work and happier with the work that they were doing were 12% more productive. Now, there is actually some really simple, quick techniques you can do as an employer if you've got a team or if you're an entrepreneur on your own. There's just a few simple things you can do to make yourself a little bit happier at the start of and during the day. It doesn't take that much time, but to get a 13% productivity boost for a few minutes of your time here and there, it's a good investment.
You'll have to share a couple of those with us now, Daryl.
Yeah, of course, I will. So one of them is about noticing your mood and your energy levels during the day and being more aware of when they dip or when they are typically lower. And an example of this is when you've got what I like to call, is going to make a few people laugh. A few people might snigger at this, but can't please everyone. But it's what I like to call a big hairy potato. Sounds gross, doesn't it? If you actually imagine a really big hairy potato, you'd be like, that's going right at the bottom of the bin and not in the kitchen bin. I'm taking this right outside to the big dumpster. I don't want to be anywhere near this. And you've got this big hairy potato. You don't want to touch it as a work task. It's typically things that are more complex, complicated, laborious, maybe boring. They're not things you like doing. Maybe you don't like doing them because they're just not within your interests or because it requires quite a good few hours of your day and it requires a lot of focus and concentration. There could be a whole host of different types of big hairy potatoes that we all have to deal with in our working week. So typically when we have those, it's very common even for very ambitious and smart and hard-working people that we quite naturally want to put off doing them because it's not going to be fun. We want to do tasks that we enjoy and tasks that are maybe quicker because getting something ticked off the list, it makes us feel good. So if we can tick off 6 things in an hour, that makes us feel really good. It's a short-term, happiness boost. But that big hairy potato, the more we put it off, it's looming. And even in our subconscious, we're thinking about it, which is taking away some of our energy and draining us. So the trick is to fight that temptation and do those big hairy potatoes earlier in the day when our energy is more at its peak. That way you're going to get it done quicker as well. From actually getting it out of the way sooner rather than procrastinating, keep putting it off, leaving it till the last minute when the deadline's about to pass, which then creates more stress hormones and anxiety and affects the quality and the efficiency of you getting that task done. Instead, you're going to buck that trend and you're going to get the task done quicker in less time. And that in itself gives you a really great feel-good factor. Wow, I'm so glad I got that done a week early. I'm so glad I did that first thing in the day. And I'm so glad I got that done 20 minutes quicker than I thought. Because now I can go and do a walk, go and get myself a Costa coffee, or I can go and play with my kids and have a break, or have a healthy snack. And then I can get back to all the other stuff that I have to do. So it helps give even more energy boost and natural endorphins to then get all that other stuff done. And it's a simple example, but it's very, very common. It comes up a lot. And when I first learned that trick a few years back, I found that I ended up finishing my working day a lot sooner by tackling those big hairy potatoes first. And then obviously the other one is like, if you can avoid doing it by delegating it to someone who loves those kind of tasks as well, maybe, especially if you're an entrepreneur or a leader with a team and line reports or freelance support, just always challenge yourself. Do I really have to do this? Is there someone else that would actually enjoy doing this task? And usually when we enjoy something, we end up doing it 2, 3, 4 times quicker than someone who doesn't enjoy it. So there's a whole efficiency multiplier there as well. That's sort of one way to have more fun and boost energy and productivity at work. And then the second one is a different technique. If, let's say, you've decided that you're going to do these big hairy potatoes on a certain day earlier on, first thing even, maybe after breakfast, but you're still feeling a little bit of resistance. You're like, no, oh God, I'm not going to enjoy this. Just take 5 minutes out and go and do something fun. And for me, I've done things like I love fitness and exercise. So I've often gone and just done 100 sit-ups or 100 push-ups, and it makes me feel good and it gets my energy up. Or I'll go for a walk around the block, or I'll go and have some cuddles with my baby daughter. And it just really gets your energy levels up and it lifts your mood. And it just kind of gets you into that big hairy potato more easily. Whereas traditionally, it's quite common. We wouldn't ever do that. I'm not going to take 5 minutes out because I've got to get this done. I've got a deadline. I can't afford to take time out, but it's only 5 minutes, and the benefits of that 5 minutes, there's a huge return on investment from that. So Ollie, Jonathan, hopefully there's a few little things that resonate maybe there. What do you think?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
I mean, you've got the little ones in the other room right now having bath time, if I'm not mistaken, Jonathan.
Yes.
And me too.
I think I am guilty of the old hug and cuddle methodology there.
Good. Pleased to hear that.
I like that. And the hairy potato methodology.
Hairy potato,
big
Jonathan.
Hairy potato. Yes. So funny enough, I have found that as well, actually, but mostly through trial and error. And I haven't had anybody sort of put it as well as you have, to be fair. I do tend to tackle big tasks, like big project work. I usually, not that they're big hairy potatoes, but some are. I tend to tackle those early in the morning, and that's after a brief workout. So I like to go on the rowing machine. I got a rowing machine, yay! So I get on that and then sort of tackle those tasks. And then towards the afternoon, I know that my levels, because I get grumpy when I don't eat. So
yeah, me too.
I tend to notice when I'm on a dip. I either have like a fruit or have a few cuddles with my daughter and have lunch or whatever, and I'm back with a bit more energized, which is really good because I think, Ollie, the business of data is quite tough and a bit of a mental strain at points. But
yeah, definitely. And this brings me on to another thought. And however, before I do, just in case folks were wondering, the problem that we're dealing with today is burnout and how to avoid it and how to recover from it. And thinking it through, I'd also add another layer to that, And that's something that I spend more and more of my time thinking about, and I know both Jonathan and Daryl do. And that is how can I achieve this for my team? How can I exercise my duty of care to ensure as much as possible that the people who are entrusted to me and the people that work around me are also avoiding burnout? And how do I help identify when they might be at risk and when they're overdoing it? And then how do I help them to recover? And to that end, what have you learned, Daryl, in your days of working with teams when you apply some of the tips that you've just shared to the role of a leader, observing, and particularly I'm thinking having one-to-ones with the team, when you guiding people to become better at creating a better life-work balance for those around us?
Yeah, I mean, lots of things really. Certainly we see improved motivation, we see improved teamwork, we see increased staff loyalty. People stay in the organization longer because they enjoy it more, they feel more looked after, they feel safer, they enjoy the culture. We also see, we've also seen the knock-on effects there as well, because if your staff are happier, then guess what? Your customers get a better service. They speak to happier employees and they have greater experiences. So even we see increases in customer retention. We see increases in sales conversion in sales teams. Because again, if the quality of work and the energy from a burnt out sales team is worlds apart from a sales team that is energized, motivated, living a good life-work balance, not burnt out, and so on. So there's a few things there. We also see big increases in productivity, even when people are reducing their working hours, because of the power of nurturing energy, time management, productivity skills. We can track that right through to profits as well. So there's kind of two sides of having, as I like to call them, having and creating and nurturing a culture of productive well-being. So a lot of organizations have jumped on employee well-being programs in recent years, and there's different degrees of how effectively and they've done that and how well vested they are to really enjoy the benefits. But obviously investing in employee well-being initiatives is the right thing to do, in terms of looking after our people and being a responsible leader or employer, and indirectly does boost productivity in the workplace as well. But then there's a whole multiplier effect of then alongside that, if you embrace enhancing productivity skills and life work balance, routine and skills in that workforce. So that in turn directly tackles improved business success, but it also is indirectly boosting well-being. So the message there is that employers can, one, do the right thing by looking after their staff more, which has become even more important through this global pandemic, with life work balance becoming more blurred with remote working, and in some cases productivity dipping, where people have children at home and a whole load of other stuff. They don't have the right environment to do their best work. So they can do all the right thing and look after people's well-being, but they can also drive greater business success and greater profit, greater productivity. So they can kind of tick both the hearts and minds box and the money side, which unfortunately, particularly in some of the larger organizations, larger corporates, very typically their strategy is very much focused on how much money can we save this quarter and how much profit will we make. And the well-being and the care for their people, the focus on developing talent for the future and nurturing and developing their workforce doesn't really come up too much in board meeting agendas. And I know that from a range of personal experiences, as well as through my clients over the years. So now we're saying that they can have both. They can, they can make more money from doing this stuff, and they can actually be a nicer and better employer as well by looking after people.
Yeah, and that's a great thing, right? It can't come soon enough. Words are so important too, aren't they? One area of study for me was what was called at the time human resource management. And just that phrase itself indicates a real mindset, doesn't it? And it is completely different to the word talent that you just used. And people want to squeeze the most out of resource, but they want to retain and do right by and enjoy the benefits of extending and challenging and growing talent, don't they? Yeah, I find that very interesting. maybe now is a good time to just reflect on the moment that you mentioned right back at the start, where you'd built a business and it was going really well. And then a number of factors all happened at once, didn't they, from the story? But the pandemic occurred, and based on your description, I imagine there was a lot of face-to-face interaction and coaching and training and on-site workshops that occurred. What did you learn as an employer during lockdown, and what are you doing differently today?
Gosh, that's a big question, Ollie.
Well, feel free to just grab a couple. That's fine.
Yeah, of course. So what did I learn? I think it was a big, as someone who had a fair amount of sort of business success behind him and awards and whatnot, it was quite a big hit initially to my confidence, actually, as a company founder. That I'm someone who is known to help individuals and go into organizations to help them be more successful. Yet, my business had a more than 80% drop in revenue within 36 hours of the first UK lockdown. It put us into monthly losses for the first time in 8 years of profitable business and growth. And it was devastating. It was devastating seeing how many of our clients had to go into administration, seeing how many, families and livelihoods were affected. And we needed to work very, very hard to do things differently and to reinvent and to adjust to virtual delivery, which required an overhaul of systems and infrastructure and even the way that we do our sales and our marketing. We had to switch all of this. So there was a lot of stress and worry. And I know it's not just for my business, for so many businesses, and it's still hard now for many. But what we're seeing now for ourselves and also for many others who stayed proactive and kept going when this crisis hit, and who worked hard to listen and learn and find out about new opportunities and then to embrace those new opportunities. The silver linings are quite quickly within our grasp, and what we've got now, 14 months on from that first lockdown. We've got a business that's more robust, that is going to be much more stable and secure for any further future global pandemics that might arise. Hopefully not, touch wood again. And we've really embraced technology, which we were pretty good at digital transformation and leveraging technology previously, but now we've taken that to a whole nother level. Develop new products that give us more scalability and work in that digital environment and even on a more of a global basis and not just exclusive to the UK and Europe. And we're more excited than ever for the future because we've worked so hard and because we've really embraced innovation and the power of technology and our knowledge as well of the marketplace and what people need. And it's really nice that we're starting to see some great success stories come out in the press of a range of organizations that are starting to reap the rewards of some of their reinventions or pivoting, as some people like to call it.
And isn't it interesting I remember someone who we've had on the show, a guy by the name of Nick Haidar. I remember him saying to Jonathan and I one day, lockdown and periods of great strain show the cracks, but they also define us by how we respond to them. And I remember really clearly, quite early in lockdown 1 in the UK, so a good year and a bit ago now, reading about supermarkets. And obviously supermarkets, many of them closed a lot of doors and a lot of staff were let go. I remember Tesco's had reacted in a way that wasn't getting good press. And in the same update, the competitor Morrison's had given all staff a payout of, I think it was £1,000 as a lockdown gesture. And I just thought, wow, how much this is an opportunity to live the way that we want to be as an organization and to react appropriately.
Fantastic.
Do you think we should move on to talking about the new product, Jonathan?
Yes, I think so. So, sorry, I've a bit thrown off. Daryl, you're talking about the life-work effect. Can you tell us a bit about the concept and how it frames your views of achieving the work-life balance?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I've done is created this a methodology I've been using for years, but I've kind of productized it more and made it more scalable and adapted it to the increasing importance of managing remote teams, driving productivity and helping teams and individuals to have a much better and smarter life-work balance. And so there's 4 main pillars that I help people with through my programs. It's number 1, you've got helping them improve strategy and planning. And number 2, you've got productivity mastery. And then you've got life-work balance, skills and routine. And then you've got well-being. And when you work across all 4 of those at once, there's a huge multiplier effect towards a much happier life and greater success at work. And as I say, this comes from lived experience and 19 years career experience. Even my experiences of the burnout and relational trauma comes into everything that I put into this recently launched program. And then knowing over the years from all of the various trainings that I've done and I've attended as well, when I go to learn from others, I found that so many successful people, they go and do workshops or webinars or read books and they enjoy them and they feel inspired and they come up with so many great ideas and they learn so much. But a few things, statistically, we've been found to forget 75% of what we learn on those experiences within 24 hours. So that's a big opportunity.
Did you say 75%?
75%, yeah.
Wow.
Just within 24 hours. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Well, and then you look at, well, why? Why is that? Well, life is so busy. There's so many distractions, so many things we have to do all the time, especially if we are hard workers, overachievers as well, especially if we haven't developed our skills and routines for life-work balance and productivity, which typically aren't on the curriculum in university, for example.
Wasn't on my degree.
No. And it's not in any typical kind of leadership training courses, for example. So, if we're not training our current and future leaders on all this stuff, then how are the rest of the world going to learn this stuff? So it's kind of something that I'm predicting is going to have a lot more appreciation and focus in the coming years. And so in my COVID innovation, if we can call it that, or reinvention, I wanted to develop an app to go alongside my program that makes it much easier for entrepreneurs, leaders and their teams to take all the great lessons from my 12-week transformation program and turn those into simple, easy actions, but also to be blessed with lots of data and insights about how well they're doing and helping them to focus and to find motivation to keep going, to keep making the improvements and enjoying the results, but actually being able to really see and measure those results. And that's one of the examples of, the power of an app. There's so much more you can do in a coaching program when you pull in the power of an app and the data side and the gamification side as well. So just as a few examples, but also
that's completely different.
Yeah, I love that. I don't even know if you could hear me, but see me. You can't see me, but you can probably hear me smiling. I love the agile approach to training and coaching. That is just immense.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I do feel it's an area I've done a lot of research in as well. And it's like a lot of my peers in the coaching, training, professional speaking industry, a lot of them, when lockdown first came, they all literally jumped to launch and create online courses for the first time. And some of them launched them within weeks and some within months. And that's fantastic. But I looked at that and I considered it, but I just didn't want to just do it just because everyone else was. And I was like, actually, I'm going to take my time here and do something that I really believe can be much more impactful. And that's where I then, have launched an online program, but I've done it, 12 months later than the rest. And I've done it in a really different way that, with the app and the other things I've included, really drives some valuable data, some valuable insights, and helps drive real change. And that's why we call it a transformation program. And to give you an example.
Yeah, great. I was just going to ask.
Yeah. So one of the headlines that's in a really exciting way for me, getting a lot of, let's say, appreciation at the moment, is that participants that come through the program, just from 1 hour of their time per week over 12 weeks, and that's a mix of learning styles. It's watching some short videos. It's using some of the resources and tools that we provide in a step-by-step format. It's using the app as that action enabler tool and for the data insights capture. So there's a range of things. So it's quite an interactive program. Plus you have live coaching sessions and Q&As as well, private community group. And that's all of that is just an average of 1 hour a week over 12 weeks. But as one of the results, everyone is identifying at least 10 hours a week that they can then do something else with. And for some, if they're massively overworking, I'm talking like 50 plus hours of work time per week. For some of them, they really want to get a bit more control and a bit more life back. So they just take that 10 hours back for themselves, which still has a positive impact on well-being, sustainability of their work and boost productivity. However, some feel there's a bit of a guilt. They don't want to be seen to be lazy. They don't want to be the first one to sign off from work for the day. So we do a bit of a half and half. So they take 5 hours back for themselves, step up the fitness, have more time for friends and family, pick up the guitar that's got dusty and you haven't touched for 5 years. Whatever your other hobbies and passions are. And there's a lot you can do in an extra 5 hours a week when you think of it like this. And then the other 5 hours from the 10 that we're saving, we then reallocate those to higher value tasks that you or they have just not had as much time for. And it's typically things like having more time to build a better strategy, to look more long-term in the business and to work on the business, not in the day-to-day and being very reactive to our inbox or our phone calls or the number of meeting requests. And actually taking more time out to plan better productivity, to plan better quality sales conversations, better quality marketing campaigns that can help us grow our client base more quickly and more easily. And by spending more time doing that stuff, obviously there's a massive multiplier effect on how quickly our businesses can be more successful and grow. And then you can grow your resources, take on more staff, take on more freelance support, and you can reduce your stress further because you've got more of a team to support you and take on the tasks that you don't like doing and the tasks that aren't your strengths. And these are all some of the things that we measure through the app as well. So it makes it really easy to kind of plan resourcing and improve teamwork as well if you roll it out across a wider number of people.
That's really interesting because it interweaves a little bit with the fitness watch on your wrist concept, doesn't it, Jonathan?
Yeah, it does. It does. What I like is the trade-off, an hour for 10. What would you do with your 10, Ollie?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I guess it depends on where I live. And living in Brighton at this time of the year in a world that's no longer in lockdown, which I'm projecting us into in the very near future, I'd be going out and seeing people and going for walks, getting up on the downs, getting in the water. I'd probably get a stand-up paddleboard. And, this sounds really sad, but I haven't got one yet because I think to myself, is it worth spending several £100 and all of the faff to use something just on the weekend? And that's me writing off Monday to Friday and saying, although I live a 5-minute walk from the beach, I just accept that I won't get there during the day because I've got so much work to do. And even saying that out loud makes me feel like I could probably free up 10 hours if I really worked at it. Yeah. How about you, Jonathan?
Go on, Ollie. I'll probably go to the park with my kids. And I'll balance that with probably reading some books. I've not read as much as I should. And do a bit of art as well. I haven't been drawing as much as I should as well. But yeah, no, it's fantastic. That bit of trade-off. And you could just imagine the increase in productivity and well-being overall if you roll that out to a team. I'm sure, Ollie, if your team and my team, if we did have that sort of saving across the team, yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Okay, so maybe it's my turn then. So why this program and why now, Daryl? And I'm asking this question for the second time because I loved the answer so much when we were having a chat about having you on the show. Why are you excited about bringing this to the world and making it available to people?
Yeah, again, great question. I think there's a few things really. There's the scalability of this now, having an app and that pre-recorded program. If 1 million people want to start it tomorrow, they can. Before I had this program, I used to do and I still do a bit of this, of course, anyway, but when I used to do more of a focus before COVID on my professional speaking appearances, one-to-one executive coaching, group training programs, consulting projects, and I could only do so many at once. I definitely couldn't do 1 million. So for me, who loves helping people, the thought of going from helping hundreds of businesses and leaders per year to millions is just, it's just like, wow, because this is me, I want to build a legacy. I want to help people. I want to make a difference with my skills, my experiences. I want to take those out to the world on a bigger scale. So that's one big thing. And I guess the other bit is around, I've mentioned helping others a few times, and there's a whole load of reasons where that comes from. But I guess what I went through personally with the burnout a few years ago, and some dark places that took me to, and how I learned about how common it is. 1 in 4 people before COVID were expected to experience mental health issues and be at risk of things such as burnout, every year. It's 25% of your friends and family and work colleagues every year. And that was before COVID. So of course now, we're seeing increases of work-related stress, depression, suicide, anxiety, and a whole host of things. So to be able to make a dent on that and help reduce people's worries and anxieties and take the pressure off, that's kind of a big driver for me, and helping others to learn from some of my successes, but also my failures, which I don't really see anymore as failures. I see them as opportunities to learn and to become stronger and more resilient. Opportunities to help others avoid some of my mistakes, which I always say it's better to learn from the mistakes of others rather than to make mistakes ourselves. They've said that for a long time. It's great to learn from your own mistakes. And I do agree with that to an extent. Isn't it much better if I can learn something from you, Ollie, or you, Jonathan, today that enables me to avoid that same mistake that you made and save potentially lots of money, lots of heartache, lots of wasted time. That's where learning is so important, learning from others. Does that answer your question, Ollie, in the way I might have answered it before?
Yeah, it really does. It really does. And what would you say to people who gave a response a bit like mine, I suppose, that kind of indicated that all of the things that you're talking about sound good? And sure, it sounds like some people are claiming back 10 hours a week, but there's no way I could do that because all of these reasons I'm just too busy.
Yeah, well, that's where, I always try to look at the motivations and just visualize. And like Jonathan, like you captured perfectly earlier. I love that you just intuitively picked this up, but it's wow, what can I do with an extra 10 hours per week? It's trying to find out, trying to help people to identify how they could get more from their time, achieve more in less time and less effort, to have more fun at work because life can be too short at times. To embrace the fact that there are others, perhaps in your business or out there in the world, who are waiting for you to find them, to give them all the tasks that you don't like doing. And they love doing those tasks. Not only do they love doing them, but they do them 3-4 times quicker. And because they might be professionally trained in them. And it's a good example certainly for entrepreneurs and leaders to avoid and get rid of any sort of operational administrative tasks. It's fairly cost effective to hire someone to take on those tasks or to outsource. And generally then, to be able to reallocate that time, for instance, to winning more £10,000 sales contracts, it's going to quickly give you quite a big return on investment on any cost you spent. But there's also just that knock-on effect and power of spending more time doing what you love and doing what you do best. And we see that swapping strengths and weakness tasks across teams is quite a powerful way to transform life-work balance and business growth at the same time. So that's a big area. But there's so many different ways you can tackle well-being, productivity, life-work balance strategy. It's lots of little things you can do, and they all add up to bigger and bigger results. And sometimes from some of the workshops I do, because I do free monthly workshops around the life work effect and giving away practical tips and advice. And sometimes people have been a bit overwhelmed when they come on my workshops or if they hear me on a podcast, because when I go into the giving away top takeaways, and they're like, oh, this is quite a lot, and I'm already really busy, so I don't have time, and how am I going to do this? And then they go back to those old habits that we talked about earlier. But I just say, look, just change one thing a week for 12 weeks. And a lot of these little habits, they only take a few minutes here and there. So you change one thing a week for 12 weeks and imagine the possibilities by the end of it. And it's not actually that difficult if you break it down into bite-sized chunks like that.
Yeah. That's a big one.
Yeah, because am I right in assuming, Daryl, that those 10 hours it's not really restricted into your working hours, right? If you've decided, so save that big hairy potato, I've left it till, let's say, 4, and I'm supposed to finish at 5, but it's taking me a couple more hours because I'm not as switched on as I would be in the morning. If I've sort of just rearranged my calendar, I'll save an hour that day anyway. If I get it done early in the morning, I wouldn't be working super hard in the afternoon, right? And if you spread those learnings across your calendar in the week, you can easily save a bit of time there. Whilst you were talking, I was just thinking, I was like, I wonder what kind of heavy sort of calculation tasks I have in the afternoon that I could actually just push to the morning. So, yeah, this is amazing.
It's also, just to give you a little, it's kind of a couple of teasers really of some of the different things our listeners can do differently. If your typical meeting calendar appointment is an hour long, just trial for a few weeks, capping them at 45 minutes. But don't then book another meeting straight after it, so you're back to back. Keep the 15 minutes gap and use that 15 minutes if you need to do any follow-up to that meeting. Get that done out of the way while it's fresh, rather than picking up later in the day when you've got to think back and you've got to flick through your notes, try and read your messy writing, trying to figure out what the hell you wrote or what you committed to. It's happened to me quite a lot because I write like a doctor apparently. Although Einstein also had very messy handwriting, so I'm quite happy with that comparison, FYI. But yeah, just use that 15 minutes, get the follow-up while it's fresh. There's efficiency in that, there's productivity in that. And then you've hopefully then got sort of a bit of a 5-minute break as well before the next meeting, so you're not staring at the screen constantly as well. You can go and have that quick cuddle with the kids or a play fight, or walk around the block, have a fresh coffee, a healthy snack, so some pumpkin seeds, some dark chocolate, really good for your brain, blueberries, fatty fishes. That's probably not a quick snack, but it's great to have things like that for lunch, a hearty meal, rather than a packet sandwich from the local supermarket or petrol station. It's quite amazing how many people I speak to that haven't actually thought about proactively building in foods that are specifically good for feeding your brain into your daily diet. And I know that since I've been doing that, my energy and my well-being has been through the roof by comparison. So it's thinking about what foods you eat as well. And then there's another little example. When I wake up every day, the first thing I do is get out of bed and I go and drink 500 millilitres of fresh water. Why? Drinking that amount, that is what your body needs to help flush through the harmful toxins that it's been processing during your sleep from all that stuff you've been eating in the day before. So helping flush those out helps give your sort of your body a break, but it further boosts your energy. It sets you up for the day really nicely. Toxins can do some quite nasty things to our bodies. So 500 millilitres of water is a nice little habit as well. And furthermore, annoyingly, it makes you go to the loo every 45 minutes for the rest of the morning. But again, the positive of that is it's forcing you to get away from the desk. So you're giving your eyes a break, giving your brain a break from staring at that screen, and you're getting the oxygen flowing by having to physically leave your desk and walk to the bathroom. So there's multiple benefits, just that one habit of drinking 500 millilitres of water.
I actually do this. And I'm pretty sure I told you this when you and I used to work together, Jonathan. It was the only way I could force myself to take a break, was just keep hitting the water and eventually I have to get up.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's brilliant. And Ollie, you're one out of hundreds of people that I speak to, probably over a month actually through the workshops I do. I'm obviously reaching a lot of people, but very few people are doing things like this. So it's really great to hear that something I say isn't actually new, if that makes sense.
Oh, it's really been an interesting journey for us, this podcast, isn't it, Jonathan? And we were talking about it the other day and remarking that it's great to share the wisdom of others and to help people to think about and to start to resolve some of the common problems around us, right? But we've also learned so much, haven't we, Jonathan?
Yeah, I've learned a ton. Being a 90s baby, I've learned a lot about wellness, about mental health, about life-work balance, really. And I've learned a lot this podcast as well. So thank you, Daryl. But yeah, Ollie, I think you really are, you and Daryl are the 1 in 100 that actually have that amount of water in the morning. I tend to have a lot, but I spread it around throughout the day. So that's something I'm going to change. If I if I front load it, yeah, I'll be flushing my system in the morning. So that's a good note there.
Yep. Do you know what? I pledge to do that every day for the next week, and then we can compare notes. What do you reckon?
Yes. Yep. Wonderful, wonderful. So we've covered a number of steps that people can take to improve productivity and avoid, I'd say, burnout to a degree with a number of the operational changes that they can make to their schedule. Is there anything else that, if you're a leader or a entrepreneur, that you can do to help others around you support a healthy life-work balance?
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of it starts with leading by example. It's a nice, easy way. So when we're allowed to fly again, one of the first things that the cabin crew say in the emergency safety briefing is, in the event of an emergency, please put your own oxygen mask on first. If you don't and you help someone else, well, you're then going to die shortly after helping them, if not during, and you're not going to be able to help anyone else and your life's over. So looking after ourselves better, and then leading by example and showing and sharing with our teams how we're doing that and sharing the benefits of that is one good thing. You can also, I don't want to make a sales plug, but you can also bring people like me to run lunch and learn sessions for your teams, where we do like 30 minutes of little bit of context about, for instance, the life work effect and the benefits of well-being, life work balance and productivity. And then we go into sort of 20 minutes of boom, 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 actionable advice and practical takeaways before then an audience Q&A. You can do things like this to, help upskill and give your staff more knowledge, more tools, more methods to do this stuff. And what else can you do, really? I think probably the final key piece of advice I'd share on that actually is really making time to understand your team and understand your staff, listening to them and checking in on them and really showing an interest in them personally, not making it all business, work. And there's a few benefits to that. Again, it makes work more fun, it improves morale and teamwork, but also gets you a better insight to how they are and how you can help them. And you'll see signs of them not being particularly happy or being more tired, being too rushed too often and being stressed, and you can check in on them and you'll have the rapport, because you've spent time getting to know them and supporting them. You'll have the rapport that they'll have the confidence to open up to you. And then, problem shared is a problem halved. That's a bonus straight away. And you can work together on that. And sometimes that's reallocating some workload across a team. Maybe it's helping them with better stress coping methods, helping them with prioritization, time management skills, which are also some of the things I cover in my program. But there's so many resources out there for these things. I've also got a YouTube channel. I've got some free ebooks and downloads on my website as well. So if anyone wants to get some more healthy habits and practical things they can do to improve well-being, to fight burnout, avoid it altogether, ideally, and to boost productivity, just head over to the darylwoodhouse.com website, or stick my name on YouTube and you'll find me come up there with lots of short videos with practical advice and tips on a whole range of topics.
You've been generating good, healthy, helpful content for a while, haven't you, my friend?
Thank you. I'm trying to. I think I did 48 videos I did through lockdown. And if I had more time, I'd do more. But obviously, as you guys know, it takes quite a lot of work behind the scenes with producing content and podcasts and so on. So it takes time, especially if you want to make it good quality, like I know you guys are with Problem Busters.
Fantastic. So we'll also have a number of the links, if not all the links, in our show notes.
You know it.
Yep. Available on all streaming platforms, as well as our website. We have a full comprehensive list of the links and the notes. So I think, Ollie, this leads us into our sharing section.
I think it does. Dun, da, da, da.
Da, da, da.
So, Daryl, who do you most look up to in the world?
I don't know if you've heard this one before from others, but I have to say my wife, actually. She's my best friend. She's strong, not much phases her, and she's helped me through, a few years back, she really helped me get out of a tough spot, and has been very patient with me and very supportive. And yeah, I just I guess I look up to how she embraces life-work balance and stress management and how she goes about things. So I take a lot of energy and inspiration from her.
That's so cool. And I don't think we have heard that yet, Jonathan.
No, we haven't.
Yes.
Yeah.
You are numero uno.
Yes, wonderful. What book or film has most inspired you recently?
I won't say recently. It's a film I watched a long time ago, but I talk about it a lot, and I'm planning to watch it again soon. Actually, 'cause it's been a while. It's something that I guess, whilst I didn't watch it as recently, it still has a really positive impact on me. It's called Pay It Forward. Have you heard of that?
I love it.
You seen it?
Yeah, I saw it and I loved it so much that I started a very small charity that only exists on Facebook called Ask It Forward. And the idea was that if I could just encourage people to ask someone a question and then that person to ask a couple of questions, that we could all learn from each other. So yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, I absolutely loved that movie.
Can you send me the link to that, Ollie?
Yeah, I will. I can't say that it's had a lot of admin recently, but it's still a nice idea.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. Jonathan, have you heard of or seen this film?
No, unfamiliar with the film.
No way. Okay, then how'd you like to give us a quick summary, Daryl?
Yeah, sure. I don't want to give too much of a spoiler away, but it's a very good fiction movie about a young boy who creates this Pay It Forward initiative, encouraging everyone to go and help 3 other people, basically, and to do 3 kind things. And it ends up going national. I think it actually goes global. It's just why I need to see it again. But it's just in short, it's a really nice film with the message of being kind and being helpful to others. And actually, if enough people do that, it really creates more sort of greatness and kindness in the world, and can bring more of the best out of people. And would you agree with that, Ollie?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Wow.
It was just so touching, and especially the whole protagonist being a little boy. Yeah. Often children can teach us so much, right?
Yes. And again, don't want to give too many spoilers. It'd be great for other people to go and watch it for themselves. But I did have a bit of a teary moment towards the end with a particular scene.
Absolutely.
When did the film come out? I'm surprised I haven't heard of it. I do love my
films.
films.
It was 99 or 97 or something like that, maybe.
Oh, okay.
I could be wrong. Daryl?
Yeah, I'm just quickly Googling it now.
Thank you, Google.
Yeah, I think it was
yes.
about 20 years ago. 2000. There you go.
2000. Okay.
That's within reasonable...
Yeah, I think I just came back from France at that point. I was like 9 years old, 9, 10.
Oh, you're so young. So young and fresh and keen.
That's probably why I was... I think Castaway was around then, I think, as well.
Wilson.
But yeah, Wilson. In France, they call it, is it Solomond? Which is the last person on Earth or something like that. But yeah, no, Pay It Forward. What was it? Pay It Forward? Yes, that is going to be committed to memory, and I will search for that this evening.
And it will, of course, be in the show notes.
Yes, definitely.
Great choice, Daryl. So let's talk about maybe movements or projects that have caught your attention lately.
That's a good question.
Movements can be quite small and quite local as well, and still be inspiring.
Okay, I like the fact that I'm seeing a trend of more individuals and organizations talking about conscious capitalism. And in a nutshell, in my interpretation, that's about putting people and planet before profit, not instead of profit, but because profit can be important to give people important incentive and motivation to work hard and build a business and all of this good stuff. But it's about a move away from a traditional corporate focus on profit, at often the sacrifice of our planet and sacrifice of our staff, exploiting customers. And I'm sure we all know and have experienced a lot of that in the past. And it's just great to see more people are giving attention and donating time and resource and profits, for instance, to planting more trees, removing plastic from the oceans. And it's all these things are important to me, and it'd be great to know as I get older that my kids and grandchildren will still have a healthy planet to live on. For example, wouldn't it be great for world peace and poverty to be removed.
Yeah, I think we're definitely seeing a trend. I think companies like Apple using a lot more recycled material, like recycled plastics, and also the automotive industry as well. I think with the introduction of electric vehicles, I think there are some right now with materials for the interiors of the car sort of made from recycled plastics that they're sort of getting from the ocean as well. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, so that's really, really, really good. That space is just amazing because you're not just consuming and creating products and amassing all of this sort of money. You're kind of thinking about the impact that you're making on the world. So
we'll have to get some of those people on, right? And also on my list of a very long list of all the people that I think it'd be great to have on the show. We've got the people who've been working on, I think it's bacteria that eat plastic.
Oh, yes. Brilliant.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Daryl, on to tech. What tech is improving your life right now?
Some people might laugh at this. YouTube. Why YouTube? I subscribe to YouTube Music for $9.99 a month, and it gives me an abundance of amazing new and old music. I love music. It gives me lots of inspiration, motivation, energy. I'm listening to it as much as I can whenever I'm not in a meeting, speaking to someone. I've always got music on. And then also the other aspect of YouTube, as it's more widely known, it's video content. Yeah, there's so much great content on there. Some not so good content, of course, but some great content. People we can learn from, new topics we can upskill on, and then much of it for free as well. So it's pretty incredible. And I like visual learning myself. I love being able to not just listen, but actually to see people's body language and see them in person as such. So yeah, YouTube.
Ah,
that's cool.
That's a first, right? I think.
I imagine you'd +1 that though, Jonathan.
Oh, I am
YouTube generation.
I've got the YouTube Premium because I listen to a lot of music as well, and I watch a lot of YouTube. I think I remember using YouTube in 2005 before Google owned it, because, and I'm definitely part of that generation, and there is a lot of content on there, and the barrier to entry is so low that essentially if you want to become a creator, there's nothing stopping you to, and it's just wonderful. It's amazing. So
can you find a certain podcast on YouTube, Jonathan?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe if you could type in Problem Busters.
Reckon you might.
Yep, and in the related videos you'll find Daryl as well. So wonderful. Perfect. So one of the last of our sharing section, and potentially the heaviest. What is the one thing you would like to change in the world?
Probably, I might have given a hint to this earlier, really, but I would just love for there to be no poverty, for global warming not to be an issue, amazing, great animal species to not be on an endangered list. So I want perfection, effectively, for the whole world. That would be amazing to have.
Wonderful.
I'm sure you must have had that answer before from others, right?
Bits and pieces, but I think you summed it up quite nicely, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I think yours was quite all-encompassing, which is wonderful.
Thank you. Well, I'll have to add with all of that, and of course, for everyone to see the value of and embrace a true life-work balance, not to be all work, no play.
Amen.
Yes.
And how can people get in touch with you and find out more about your work and the life-work effect?
Yeah, thanks for asking, Ollie. Probably main website is probably the best one, which is darylwoodhouse.com. So as long as you spell Daryl right, I'm quite easy to find. I'm also on LinkedIn. What else am I? I've got my YouTube channel. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. So yeah, I'm always welcome people to join my community and follow me. I'm always welcome to private messages. Happy to have one-to-ones with people. I do love networking and helping and adding value. So would love to hear from anyone and everyone.
Good for you. And to that effect, touche, Daryl has kindly put together a 10% discount for listeners. So how could people go to collect on that, Daryl?
Thanks, Ollie. Yeah, of course. We've got a special promo code, which is Problem Busters. which I thought was quite fitting. And I think in the show notes, we'll have the link that takes you directly through to the website for the entire Life Work program with that post-COVID innovation mobile app. And so that's one place. Alternatively, just message me on any of the social channels or through my website, and I can provide the link further or take any questions. And as I say, happy to jump on one-to-one calls as well.
Yeah, thank you. That's very generous of you. And we will also put a link to your very generous weekly workshops. I think that is an amazing thing to do for people, and I look forward to attending one myself. I might even make space in my week for it.
Yes, please do.
Awesome. I think that's it, Jonathan. Have you got anything else?
No, I think that's it. I'd like to thank Daryl Woodhouse for joining us on this episode of Problem Busters. So thank you. And I really enjoyed this, Ollie. How about yourself?
Yeah, a lot to learn, and I really enjoyed it too. I have to admit, I came into this episode thinking we could get a lot of good information here. Good information, but a lot of it. And I feel really lucky that, Daryl, you've really summarized down to just a handful of things that are helpful so that people can take them on board and not get drowned in them. So thank you for filtering for us.
Oh, pleasure. Thank you, guys. And I always say, isn't life just so much nicer when you can go and do something that's work related and it doesn't actually feel like work, and it's actually a pleasure. And I kind of feel like I've been in the same room as yourself, Ollie, and Jonathan, and we've just been kind of having a nice chat, relaxing, and whilst hopefully creating some great thoughts and ideas for our listeners. So it's been a pleasure for me. So thank you very much.
Good stuff. It's what keeps us doing it, right, Jonathan?
Yes, it is. It is. And for our listeners, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and all major streaming platforms, as well as YouTube. So thank you very much, and we'll catch you next time. Ciao.